Yeah, thank you very much for sticking and staying with us. Just gone by is CAF and the psychologist and the lawyer, historian Anochi Frimpong. This morning's headlines for me had one of the greatest lessons I can ever imagine or want to think about or for paying for. That you assess your own error, prescribe your own punishment, and go ahead and ensure its implementation. Awesome stuff. Anyway, we're going to be talking about police and civilian relationships, and very shortly we're going to come your way with that discussion. My name is Darrell Alantego. It's still GTV Breakfast. Time just gone is 8:39 by the studio clock. And in 2022, the police were fingered to have been very heavy-handed in the way they dealt with civilians in this country. In that same report, places such as in Nkoranza were mentioned, Kaswa was mentioned, and parts of the country was mentioned or were mentioned in relation to how police have dealt with members of the public. You saw not too long ago a video making the rounds on social media where a young man was being forced into a vehicle, and if you listen closely to some of the things they were saying, it had to do with something he claimed not to be his, and the police saying, okay, come with us and confirm if it really isn't yours. All these comes into play, and critically what we want to understand is whether or not we have lost trust. The police have also lost trust in the public. We'll also look at the incidents around Lamashegu in the north where the police went on a shooting spree and the young man got injured. We'll also look at Arise Ghana's demonstration where they got a very good visit from the police. We'll also bring in the demonstration by the Islamic Senior High School in the Ashanti region where the police went in again, fired live rounds and tear gas. And these and many others we'll look at in this conversation. Let me go quickly to a feature compiled by my colleague Multiti Saida Sadiq on the young man who was shot in the north when the police went on a shooting rampage.
Saturday afternoon in Tamale, Lamashau to be precise, the police were chasing a vehicle with an unregistered number plate. There were sporadic gunshots everywhere. Unfortunately, it hit the face of a young 19-year-old who was on his way to school after taking chop money from his father. After that incident, all the dignitaries in the region, that's the regional minister, the mayor, and even the IGP came down to see the victims of that shooting. GTV Breakfast did a story on the plight of the victims after the incident, especially on 19-year-old Tofik, whose face was shattered when the bullet hit his face. We are back in Duhane to follow up on the story, so come with me on this journey as we demand for justice for the victims of the Lamashegu shooting. And we'll be speaking to his father and himself. Our lawyers petitioned the IGP and the Attorney General, and so we're here to find out if the police followed through with the compensation, with the medical bills, and all of the demands that the petition sought to have made.
No.
What happened after your crew broke the first story on Tofik being abandoned by the police after the stray bullet hit him was that I followed the authorities for the funding at the mayor's office and the police station. But they kept saying the case is with Accra. I got fed up and went to see his school headmaster to have him return to school. He agreed that we prepare and bring him so that his future is not truncated. I am not happy with the way the child is lying at home. By now, he should have written Wasi. So if the police know they cannot fully compensate us, we will find an alternative way. Taufik's feeding in a week is 150 cedis because he has no teeth. We have to mail the food in a special way to feed him. He didn't used to limp, but now he does. The saddest thing is that he is psychologically unstable now. When you're having a conversation with him, because of the trauma, he hallucinates and loses trail of his thoughts easily. I'm deeply worried about my once intelligent son. It's like they've just killed him for me. Anytime we went to the hospital after the first surgery, we buy drugs ourselves. Most of the drugs, they say the money has to come from Accra, and because of the timeliness, we had to pay ourselves. We have been told they are bringing a check to us, but for only the repair surgery, not a penny more for transportation to and fro the hospital and what we feed him, nor psychological support. As I thought of returning him to school and him going back for the surgery, I'm planning to go borrow soya bean sacks to sell and raise money to fund his expenses at the hospital. It's almost a year. All the dignitaries who came, including the IGP and MPs, have abandoned us. It's a year now. Why have they left us to our fate? Are we not human beings?
So Taufik is a 19-year-old boy who could walk well till that unfortunate incident where the bullet hit him on the face and he fell from his bicycle. He's a senior high school boy, very smart, very intelligent. His father is telling me now that he's battling with depression after the incident and how disfigured his face is. He's lost out on classes. His classmates have moved ahead, whilst he's at home and his parents battle daily because the kind of food he can now eat without teeth in his mouth is more expensive and difficult to come by. So how do you feel? It's been months, you've been away from school, your friends have gone ahead with studies. How do you feel?
Okay, anyway, I feel sad because my colleagues, I don't know how to say it because the way I want to say it, it's like I want to cry before, so I don't have anything to say. Thank you.
On the bicycle.
I'm going to school. But the dance of school, I don't know anything about that. I'm going to school and I see some people running out of the area and I want to stop. I turn my back like this and I don't know anything. If it should be.
Thank you very much. That was Multiti's feature on Taufik. In the northern region of Ghana, Taufik was caught up in a police shooting and he suffered severe injuries. At the table, or soon to join me at this table, will be Mr. Adib Sani. He is an international relations expert and also a security expert. We'll also have Justice Abdullah, a human rights lawyer, join us via Zoom, and retired police officer Tobu, currently honorable member for Wa West, also joining us on the phone. This feature just gone has something to do with police brutality or police being very heavy-handed in the way they're dealing with civilians. But this very young man, Justice Abdullahi, dealt with the story, and so having him join us via Zoom, I will go straight to say, welcome, Justice Abdullahi, if you can hear me.
Indeed, I can hear you. Well, good morning.
Thank you so very much for joining us. First of all, let's cast our minds back to Taufik's story, and given what we just saw, how do you feel as the legal person who represented him?
Yes.
Can you hear me, Justice?
Can you repeat that again?
Yes. Seeing Taufik's follow-up, how do you feel as his representative, the legal representative for Taufik? How do you feel watching how far he's come with his injuries?
Indeed, we have made some amount of progress, but definitely not enough. I was indeed hoping that the state, represented by the Attorney General's office and indeed the Ministry of Interior, would live up to expectation by doing what is most appropriate, by taking into consideration the circumstances of Taufik and ask themselves the very difficult question: if this was their kin, their son, their family, is that the kind of circumstances that police accidents or brutalities, if resulting in this kind of state, for their family member, their nephew, their son, would they have been okay with this kind of sorry state? This is the kind of question that I expect people in authority to ask themselves when they mete out such unfair conduct, such disturbing attitude towards other persons. Ask themselves that kind of question. Now, we are still doing our, but I am in finding justice for Taufik. I do not think that we are anywhere close to the end. Indeed, we are yet to start. I have made my position clearly known that Taufik deserves way better. He deserves the level of justice that will see to his complete rehabilitation and put him back in the state of mind that is reasonable for a child of his age to be back in school and to take his normal life. None of us would expect this to happen to our family members. And that is why I am resolved, together with my team and indeed GTV as an institution, all of us, to put our hands on this to ensure that Taufik gets what he indeed deserves. And indeed, this should not be limited to Taufik. I invite everyone else who has suffered these forms of injustices in the hands of the police or the state in general to take it up, because we deserve the best from our institutions and we deserve the best from the country. This is why we are citizens of this country. It is a benefit we get as nationals. Indeed, it is a benefit we get as citizens of this country to be put back in the state that we used to be, if not better. Should any of these unfortunate things happen to us. It is the reason why we pay taxes. It's the reason why we contribute to the national development. It's the reason why we are Ghanaians.
Thank you.
Thank
you very much.
Collectively cannot allow Taufik to go through. All of us, collectively, whether you are affected directly or indirectly, you should be concerned, you should be worried about what Taufik is going through.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Lawyer Justice Abdullahi. At the current state of the police service, looking at the way they relate with civilians or citizens, especially when it comes to demonstrations or any form of civil protests, the police have been accused or fingered in many reports to have been very heavy-handed in the way of dealing with civilians. Is it the case of the police themselves losing trust with citizens?
I think it's the case of rather unprofessional. I think the police, our police service in particular, needs a lot of training in meting out proportionate force whenever faced with particular circumstances that requires that they also react, either to defend themselves or to quell whatever reality that they think would be happening. I think that is where our police lacks that professional ethics, the professional bit that they ought to exhibit when faced with such difficulties. It is that thing that I think that we are lacking, and we should be training our police force to be abreast with modern trends of meeting crowds and quelling out riots in the nature that they happen whenever they are confronted with one. I do not think that our police service has been that professional over the years. Indeed, sometimes even meeting individuals in their relationship with individuals. I don't know whether you've seen the recent footages of two policemen harassing and literally manhandling a young man who was alleged to have either weed or something in a vehicle, and he was arrested right in the middle of the road.
Yeah,
two police officers. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah,
manhandling him. I think they were those two officers were invited by the Standard Bureau or something like that. If my memory is correct.
Yeah,
that some attempts were made to bring them to justice. But the point remains that that is just one of such incidents. There are a plethora of it that if we are to enumerate, we probably may not be able to finish. You see this happening on a daily basis. We only like that was on videotaped by someone else. There are a lot of the police brutalities happening on a daily basis that do not get reported. And that questions the professional standards of our police service.
Right.
And it is the same thing that we see when they are dealing with the journalists, when they are dealing with demonstrators, when they are dealing with politicians, when they are dealing with all the ensemble. Because it's either the members of the police service are angry for whatever reason, or their professional standards are lacking.
Thank you very much. Let me come quickly into the studio and thank Adib Sani for joining us. But before I come to you, Adib, I'll go on the phone to ex-police officer, currently Honorable Member for Wa West, Peter Lanchin Tobu. Thank you very much, Honorable, for joining us on this discussion. You may have heard Justice Abdullahi impugning the professionalism of the police service in the way they deal with civilians. During your time in active service, could you please bring us up to speed on some of the things you would have said to your officers on the ground when they come to deal with civilians, and why there appears to be a certain missing in action, if there was any such communications to officers on the ground?
Thank you very much, my dear brother. Let me say good morning to you and your cherished viewers and listeners. I wish I was in the studio myself, but let me say good morning to my brother Sani Adib, and then Justice Abdullahi, who just finished speaking. I was actually listening while on motion. When we talk about police-civilian relationship, it's a huge area that we need as a people to understand. And all of us collectively should try to study and get the perspective that will put the police not as an antagonist against the civilian population. The police-civilian relationship is as old as marriage.
Wow.
Man and woman, husband and wife. Husband and wife, that institution is very old, yet they have problems. Police-civilian relationship is as old as the existence of the police itself, yet we still have problems. The reason is that, you see, it is a human institution, and in economics they will tell you that the most unpredictable variable is the human being.
Wow. In
the same way, if you are dealing with human beings, you will never be able to predict 100% their behavior. And that is why sometimes you look at what the police does. Let me tell you something very interesting. All the demonstrators who were there, even if the police were very unprofessional, and we all agree that unprofessional policing is a global phenomenon. When it happens, we talk about it. We try to see what we can do to let them remain professional, to serve us. But if you find a way to pick about 50 of the demonstrators right on the ground, take them to the police training school after 1 week, wear their uniform and come back and let them join the police, you will see them behaving the same way as the police are behaving against their own people. Wow. Surprisingly, if you take the policeman out of that uniform after 6 months, probably he's retired or something, take him back to join the demonstrators as an ordinary civilian, he'll begin to behave like the crowd. So it tells you that there is something fundamental that we are not getting right. Okay. In every relationship, the fundamentals must be right. We must understand each other. And what engenders progress is trust. There must be trust between the demonstrators and the police. The police police must be professional in doing what they are supposed to do in line with law and order. The demonstrators must be very responsible citizens, agreeing to the terms that they agree with or they reach with the police when they were negotiating for the demonstration. The law is very clear, the Public Order Act. If you look at the Public Order Act, enacted in 1994, can you believe that it took 20 years until 2014 when one Inspector General of Police, Mr. Mohammed Ahmed Al-Hassan, said that no, if you are talking about public order management, it is not possible to use the local tools, the old tools. You can't send a combat team to manage public order. You can't send the SWAT team to manage public order. So he created a very professional policing unit to be trained and probably put in a very special way to deal with public disorder.
Right.
And that is a formed police unit.
Right.
The formed police unit was established in 2014. I am sure it is not that old, so probably they are still working on themselves.
Right.
But if you want to blame the wife or you blame the husband, you will become a third party.
Sure.
In this particular matter, it's not about blaming the police or blaming the demonstrators. We have a national duty to ensure that people enjoy their right to demonstrate.
Honorable
Tobu
Tobu,
also remain professional.
Honorable Tobu, just a quick one. I would like your reaction to this. Is it a case of mistrust between the police and the members of the public, or that perhaps the police have forgotten their standards when it comes to training and also in the way to deal with members of the public?
My brother, I can state this as a matter of fact. It is the mistrust between the police and the public is the fundamental cause for many of these disturbances. Because if I sit with you as an organizer of a demonstration, we agree that this is the route that we are going to take, okay? And we agree on all the terms.
Yeah.
I've given you the numbers that are expected to be at the demonstration. And the police use the numbers to plan response or plan protection. The job of the police is to provide security for the people who are demonstrating to enjoy their constitutional rights.
Right.
That is the job. The job of the police being paid for that is to protect you, your life and your property. So when the police arrives there, the police are not there to fight you. They are supposed to be there to provide that security for you.
Right.
But if at the end of the day, I find the police fighting you, then we'll go inside and ask a very simple question.
Right.
What happened? There is some level of mistrust. Either the demonstrators go way outside the agreed arrangement, or the police, for very unprofessional reasons, think that this is not the right thing to do, but it is not for you to think.
Right.
It is for the law to say what is right to be done, and you just have to apply that.
Right. Thank you very much. Let me come into the studio and bring Adib Sani, my brother, in. When is it okay for the police to use force in either controlling crowd or effecting arrest? When is it okay to do so?
When it is proportional. We have a principle applied so far as the use of force is concerned. However, it is always recommended that as much as you can, you de-escalate.
Right.
Use diplomacy to deal with the situation. But when you have no option but to use force, it has to be proportional to the threat. So, for example, you own a gun, then someone chases you with a whip.
Right.
And you shoot the person. Do you think it's proportional? No. Or someone is stealing a car battery, like it happened some time ago somewhere around Alajo. Then you shoot the person. He's just stealing a car battery. It's a crime. No denying that fact. But when you shoot, that is disproportional. But when someone chases you with a machete and you have a gun and you fire back and kill the person, it's proportional because the threat posed by the person is equal to the force you used. But let us take it from a historical antecedent, okay? Right. In the 19th century, the father of modern day policing, Sir Robert Peel, who was in charge, who, as a matter of fact, created the Metropolitan Police in the UK and later became a British Prime Minister, came out with certain principles better known today as the 9 Pillar Principles of Modern Day Policing. Okay. And all those principles is hinged around the police's ability to harness their relationship with the population based on mutual trust and respect. In other words, it is called policing by consent. And it is also said that the more force you use in certain situations, the less you're bound to have the people cooperate with you.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Let me go to Justice Abdullahi. Justice Abdullahi, lawyer, if you can hear me, once again, as a human rights lawyer, when you see or hear stories of police brutality, does that bring into question whether or not the police has failed in upholding their professional standards? And if it is the case, from a lawyer's perspective, how will you recommend the public deals with the police in such instances?
Indeed, when I see and hear police brutalities, I get panicked. I get really scared, because this is the only institution established to bring law and order. Mm-hmm. So if they are acting unlawfully, then it leaves us with very little options as nationals, because you have absolutely nowhere else going apart from the police. The only other resource you have is to the court. But even at the court, you still need the police to protect you. And so if the one paid to protect you is the one brutalizing you, you have every reason to be scared and to be to fear for your life, because you have absolutely no means. And it is indeed the case that we are presently witnessing with Taufik, for instance.
Right.
Who is undergoing this ordeal, but the very institution he's supposed to report to seek redress, and before ultimately possibly going to court, is the institution that inflicted this harm on him. Now, when you're confronted with this challenge, luckily for us, we have several institutions embedded in our laws that are allowed the room to step in to ensure that some amount of restorative justice, restorative what's it called? Is meted out to the victim. And here we have a lot of them. Those that do not need money, including Shraj, do not need money to go there. Shraj can easily take up such a matter because it's a human rights institution. And if all things being equal, Shraj will be able to restore the person, the victim, to or whoever, however many they may be, to the state that they ought to have been in had the incident not occurred. Under our circumstances, sometimes I always believe in petitioning the Attorney General, because we have one of the finest Attorney Generals in our recent history, and a young man for that matter. So he appears to be in tune with modern trends and modern times. You petition his office, you are likely to have some amount of feedback. It may delay because of the nature of their work and the numbers they deal with. But it's one institution that if you petition, you are likely to find, under our laws, should be able to seek some redress, is the Interior Ministry itself. Unfortunately, we do not get the level of cooperation and benefits that the services that they ought to be rendering to us as nationals. Right. And so once you take all these ones out, then you are only left with the court. Yeah. Now, this is my position. My position has always been that the court must be the last resort. The last resort. Yeah. And that's because of the nature of antagonisms that are brought on bed the moment the court is invoked.
Okay.
Everybody holds on to his horses, and even those who would have otherwise compromised begin to be more antagonistic and refuse to even reason now.
Right.
And that is why the court is always a last resort.
Thank you.
These other institutions.
Right.
Thank you.
Justice, you recently managed to get the police to meet Taufik somehow, meet his medical bills. I understand a certain amount was raised by the police to meet the young man's surgery or something, or reconstruction of his teeth. Being his rep, did that bring you any satisfaction? Do you think that's enough, or there's still some more the police can do with respect to Taufik and his current condition?
So, yes, indeed, we wrote just as I indicated, we wrote to the police, we wrote to the Attorney General and the Interior Ministry for Taufik's issues to be looked at. And eventually, the medical bills were paid for the reconstruction. But that is not what we are asking for.
Okay.
Taufik having reconstruction does not put him back in his original state. Admitted, we may never have Taufik in the state he used to be in prior to the incident happening. But as much as money can do, Taufik must be as close as possible to who he was prior to that. He must be able to go back to school. He must have the family compensated for all the trauma they've been through. This is the ultimate battle ahead of us in the case of Taufeeq. And that's what I'm expecting from the police. Paying the medical bills for the reconstruction is not enough, definitely not enough. There have been series of other bills that have been borne by the family. And the trauma that you've undergone, all those things cannot be paid for simply by paying for a reconstruction.
Yeah.
That is an insult to the family if that is all we were fighting for. That would be an insult indeed to our entire collective human relations. If all we needed was for a reconstruction, despite all that he has gone through, the pain that he's still going through, what the family has endured, the pressure, the trauma, the expenses, someone else to sacrifice his entire life to take care of him, all of that must be quantified. It must be compensated for. So you cannot leave it simply because some reconstruction has been paid for. That is clearly not enough. Otherwise, all of us will be shooting somebody in the face and then be paying medical bills.
Certainly that can't be allowed. Thank you very much anyway, Justice Abdullahi. And we're definitely standing firmly behind you in your efforts to get some justice for Taufeeq and his family. Indeed, what we all saw, even what we've just seen, isn't one that anybody at all should think is okay unless more has been done. And so, by all means, all the best of luck as well, and keep pushing and fighting for the young man. Let me go to Honorable Tobu, who is with us on the phone. We're sorry, sir, for keeping you on the phone for that long. But let's come back to the question of police-civilian relationship and ask this or run this by you. Honorable, being an ex-police officer and given that you accept that there is a huge mistrust between police and members of the public, what do we do going forward to build bridges in order to restore confidence on both sides?
Thank you very much. Let me say this for all of us to take note. Unprofessional policing is a threat to every democracy. And for that matter, unprofessional policing in Ghana remains a threat to our democracy. So anybody who talks about unprofessional policing, I am quite excited because nobody says that the police should be thrown out. Or in other words, the police should be abolished. Everybody is crying that we need a very professional police organization. What it means that the direction is all of us saying, can we do something to make our police more professional? Just a few things. One, the police service over the years realized that, listen, we need some internal mechanisms to be able to stand strong. And they created what we call the professional bureau, the Professional Policing Bureau or the Professional Investigation Bureau. That bureau, which initially was called PIPS, Police Intelligence and Professional Standards Bureau, that bureau is supposed to ensure that there is internal discipline. And that bureau is the one that investigates police. But people are beginning to ask, can the police continue to investigate themselves and be so honest with the report? If that trust is not there, let's create what we call the Independent Police Complaints Commission, which will be managed by civilians. Because in every democracy, authority is vested in a civilian body. The president is a civilian. So let's find a civilian body to have some oversight responsibility over the police in the areas of what? Indiscipline, of unprofessional conduct. If we are able to do that, I will recommend that the supposed Independent Police Complaints Commission should not have original jurisdiction, should only be dealing with complaints. If the police deal with you and you are not happy, let the police investigate and come out with a report. If it doesn't favor you, appeal to the Independent Police Complaints Commission. Number two, what we need to begin to understand is that everywhere in the world, bad governance creates pressure for state security agencies, very particularly the police. If the economy is collapsing and people are screaming everywhere, look, you cannot guarantee security because people are bitter, businesses are collapsed, banks are collapsed, the economy is in dire need of revival. So if you have yourself in that state, the police will definitely be on pressure because many of the civilian people or the civilians will be reacting to the genuine situation in the country that is so pressurizing their lives. The other point I want to make is that, we used to be called the Ghana Police Force, if you can remember.
Sure, yeah.
It is not for nothing that they move it to be called the Ghana Police Service now. So moving away from force into service is a trajectory that requires time and consistency in training. So we need to invest more in the police to ensure that the police moves away from the force mentality into a service mentality. I hear my brother Adib was talking about minimum use of force.
Sure.
The police are brutality. Listen, there is something we call plan in police training. training. Before you apply force, you have to ask yourself, the first question is it proportional
Right.
to the resistance that I'm getting?
Right.
You don't use a sledgehammer to kill a fly.
No.
What I'm going to do, is it legal? Am I covered by law? Because tomorrow I'll be asked to answer questions. And number three is that, can I account for my actions? If I'm called before any judicial body or quasi-judicial body now, can I account for my actions and go and sleep and feel confident that I protected Ghana, I protect life and property, and I'm also professional? And the last one is, please, what I'm going to do. If I'm pulling a truncheon to beat somebody, if I'm going to throw tear gas, I'm even taking a gun to shoot, is it necessary? If it's not necessary, please don't do it. And these are all trainings we offer officers. But when you come to the civilian population, who trains them? You know, when you're talking about professional policing, you should also talk about responsible citizens.
Right.
But the citizens are so responsible that, listen, they know they have the right. In 1994, a lot of people knew of their rights, but they never talked about their responsibilities. So together as a country, we can have a very good police service, and together as a country, we can have a very good democracy if we understand that both systems are learning processes that will continue to develop to make them move from good to better and from better towards best.
Thank you so very much, Honorable Peter Lanchin Tobu, Member of Parliament for the good people of Wa West in the up north. That's all I'll say, up north. Thank you very much. Upper West, yes. Thank you very much for joining us, Honorable. We are so grateful you could share your thoughts with us on police-public or police-civilian relationships. Let me come to the studio and once again, Adib, do you feel okay when you wake up to stories of police involving in not just beating, forcefully arresting someone, but also out of the actions of the police, lives have lost?
Well, I don't feel okay. I have no reason to feel okay because I'm a private citizen myself. Right. It could happen to me. It could happen to a friend or a family member. But there's something we need to recognize. Sure. The fact that the police is a human institution, and where usually you have a lot of people coming together, you would not have everybody being straight. I mean, we're bound to have some people going rogue, some people doing things that is in contravention of the values of the institution they represent in the first place. But what we have to focus our attention on is to put in place the right structures to make the police as professional as possible. And to piggyback that of the UK police, I mean, they have certain principles they work with. We can talk about accountability, fairness, honesty, integrity, leadership, objectivity, openness, respect, and selflessness.
Do you think it's right for the police in any way to use hot water, especially in dispersing crowds?
It depends. It brings us back to the same issue of whether it's proportional. Okay, so if the crowd is very rowdy, if the situation, and we have another, Honorable spoke about plan.
Sure.
I'm an instructor as well.
Okay.
So we apply a lot of these principles. There's another one called OODA, OODA.
Okay.
Okay.
OODA.
That is observe, orient, decide, and act.
Okay.
Okay. So all of these goes into, consideration before acting on whether to use hot water or not. So if the crowd,
what would have been the alternative if there was no hot water?
You see, we have a protocol to follow when you arrive at the protest site. First and foremost, what you need to do is to make an attempt to establish a communication link between the police on one hand and the protest leaders.
Right.
Okay, so when you are able to succeed in creating that communication, trust me, 90% of the job is done.
Have we been fair as civilians to the police in the way we sometimes take them on? Have we been fair to them?
I think we've been fair, and there's talk about democratic policing. So if you are a police force and you feel beyond reproach and nobody can criticize you, then definitely you are not a police force. And our situation is even different. It's not a force, it's a service.
It's a service.
Okay? And so once you are in a position of public responsibility, you have to be willing to accept the criticisms and do things better.
Right.
You get me? And the citizens too should understand that the police have a job to do. We should respect the police. They are humans. There are some individuals when they are driving and the police stops them, how dare you? Don't you know who I am? You don't have to act that way.
Right.
Let the police do their job.
Right.
And the police, when they are also stopping, they should act like the Americans.
Professional.
Excuse me, ma'am, can I have your registration? Please stop, do this. Can you have your hands on the wheels? Here. Stop. And when you ask questions, how dare you? When you ask them questions, it's within my... Oh, you think you know your right? They'll take you to the police station, and trust me, the whole day is useless.
It's useless.
Many people kowtow to the police, not because they wish to, but because they have a lot of things to do.
And out of fear.
When they take you to the police station, look, everybody there will support the police officer.
Of course.
So it becomes a bit, challenging.
Right. Thank you very much. That's Adib Sani, international relations expert and a security expert, joining us for the discussion on police and civilian relations. My name is Darrell Alan Tego, and continue watching GTV Breakfast. There's more to come. We're going to have a conversation on pre-mixed fuel and the shortage, whether natural or artificial. We also have Valerie sitting down with Camido Agbamataji. Yes, I love that one. Thank you very much. It has been fantastic.